I said that from day one when people would interview me, when I was just starting out making this movie, and I said, I want to make a fun movie, and everyone was giving me crap for saying, oh, he's saying the buzzword fun. And I'm like, no. I don't really know any other way to make an Aquaman movie and not have it be fun and adventurous and be a bit tongue-in-cheek, and cheeky at the same time. I feel like that's what the comic book was, and you gotta acknowledge that, you gotta lean into that, and go for it.
Aquaman was released at the end of 2018 and it was a smash hit, becoming the highest grossing movie in the DCEU and will be the first to make $1 billion. It stars Jason Momoa as himself, Amber Heard as the Little Mermaid, Nicole Kidman, Night Owl, the Green Goblin, Drago, and Jake the Muss, as well as a henchman of Rita Repulsa. And yeah, plot is about Aquaman is meant to be the king, but is a rogue who plays by his own rules, and his dick brother wants to take over the world and tries to cast him out, then learns to be a hero and returns to save the day and takes over as king, and the day is won. A formula we've all seen, but rocked the box office. Also, you're adapting a superhero's origins who went from this.
With his aquatic telepathy, Aquaman summons a school of barracuda to attack Batman and Robin.
Holy mackerel! Aquaman sending his fish friends to attack us!
Which pop culture turned into this.
Seaman, you and Swallow go get us sushi for dinner.
It's Sea-Man and Swallow.
Okay, Seaman, you guys head off.
Fine.
Swallow, come.
No way he just said that.
So, let's dive in and see how this big fish made such a huge splash, but didn't sink, and floated its way to the surface, and set sail for the box office. Water! So this is one of the most fun movie experiences I've had in a long time. This movie kept me entertained from start to finish. Not because it was dark and gritty, or had hidden messages about serious themes, or is better than a Marvel movie, but because of one word that I couldn't get out of my head the whole cinema experience. Silly. I'm imagining Marvel fans like, man, this is just a rip-off of Thor and Black Panther. This is the worst movie ever, just like the rest of the DC movies. And I was expecting DC fans to either defend the shit out of it saying, like the rest of the DC comic book characters, it's an epic tale and that shows the real world and gods and blah blah blah. Or I was expecting them to go, well, Marvel tards can be happy because now they've dumbed down Aquaman to a silly, stupid comedy just like the rest of their dumb movies. But as a Power Rangers fan, I walked out of this movie saying this is the greatest Power Rangers movie that was never made. This is so goddamn Power Rangers, I love the shit out of it.
Am I supposed to know who you are?
I scavenged the high seas. You're the Aquaman. We were bound to meet at some point.
I've been looking forward to this.
You wear a Green Ranger costume, yet your loyalty's with Rita.
I am her Green Ranger, and she is my Empress.
She's evil!
Aquaman and Jason Momoa's performance in Justice League was my least favorite part of that movie. But not only was he my favorite part of this movie, this was also my favorite movie from the DCEU.
So, just want to state that this is not a diss. Like, no disrespect, but the only reason you're saying this is because you hate Zack Snyder. And so, of course you're going to give a DC film praise just because he didn't direct it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, back to the so-called review.
Aquaman and Justice League is like, you can tell Snyder knew Aquaman was a joke, and so in casting Jason Momoa, you can see he was like trying to badassify Aquaman, which makes sense. You really can't adapt this.
Aquaman, king of the seven seas.
Into a universe like this. But there feels like a difference between Aquaman in Justice League and the Aquaman in this one. In Justice League, we have the Frankenstein mishmash of Snyder's super cute and badass Conan the Barbarian alcoholic to Joss Whedon's goofy dude bro, yeah, my man. But it seems like James Wan made the smart choice to just have Jason Momoa play himself, with fish communication powers. Everyone just explains the plot to him, and they introduce him to Atlantis, his extended family, and he's just like, alright, go with the flow. Like he knows exactly what type of film he's in. Fun schlock. I still have this theory that Zack Snyder saw him in Game of Thrones and was like, oh, he's a badass. I'll just cast him as Aquaman and he'll bring that Game of Thrones badassery with him. Make him a booze hound. doesn't play well with others. Until this movie, James Wan's like, I'm going for fun, I'm going for silly. And there's actually a scene at the start of this movie that represents this transition. Aquaman is at a pub with Papa the Muss, and they are listening to Aquaman being talked about on the news. Then some tough-looking bikers approach him, to which you're assuming they're like looking for a fight. And then the twist of them wanting a selfie happens, and Aquaman's like, fine, just don't touch me. And then they are smiling, but Aquaman has angry face. But then as the photo montage starts, he goes from having an angry face, then he gets more drunker and drunker until finally they're all maggot drunk and he's like having a great time. And then by the end of it, Aquaman's like smiling and vomiting or something. And my sides were splitting from laughter, and pretty much from that moment on, I was on board. But here comes the problem I've had with trying to write this review. I've had the worst block trying to get this onto paper because the whole movie, I was laughing my ass off. The action was super fun, the CGI was beautiful, and this movie knows how ludicrous it is, and so did I. So anything in the film that could be considered a plot hole, or at the least a bad scene, then it would have to sum up the entire film. But like, I didn't go into this movie saying, this better get the DCU back on track, or better maintain a serious tone like a DC movie should. If James Wan says he knows how silly Aquaman is, and he's going to make that work, then I'm going to go into the movie expecting that. Just like how I went into The Predator, not going, this is going to be a seriously good Predator movie. No, I went in going, this will probably be a whatever Predator movie, but it will be a Shane Black comedy. And so I was laughing my ass off during that movie, because I gave up on it being a Predator movie from the get-go, but I like Shane Black's humor. But like I said before, you can't critique the plot or its themes or tone in any serious sort of light, then yes, the worst movie ever. It would be like watching Kung Fury and saying, well, the plot makes no sense. 1 second they go to the Viking Age, and then all of a sudden there's laser raptors rock up. It makes no sense. Well, then what's the point of saying it? Because the filmmakers know they are making something stupid. The only difference here is Aquaman actually has a fully set up world and a proper plot structure, and silly things happen, but they don't happen for no reason. But let's talk about the actual plot. Come on, gang, let's hit the waves. And hang 10. Yeah! So if anyone tries to compare the plot to Thor or Black Panther, well, yeah. Power struggle within a royal family, half-brothers, the throne. It's the same shit. The only difference here is... Under the sea, under the sea. In Thor and Black Panther, the villains are the half-breeds from other cultures, and in this one, the hero is the half-caste, just like Blade. Blade is cute. So this movie starts off with the origins of Nicole Kidman washing up next to Tamura Morrison's lighthouse. He finds her passed out and brings her into the lighthouse. Then she wakes up and eats some of his goldfish out of his fish tank because, you know, she's a fish lady. Then he walks in and he's just like, oh, I was going to cook you some eggs. Which we all know is a hilarious reference to the classic kids film Once Were Warriors.
Cook the man some fucking eggs.
Start yourself, Jake!
Then they fall in love and have a child. Then some stormtroopers rock up and a sick action scene ensues. Man, the action in this movie has a really fascinating approach. When the fights start, the camera goes like super wide and is zipping all around the room with some like great choreography. Mostly one shots rather than ADHD editing. Then to keep little Aquaboy safe, she decides to return to Atlantis to face her crimes of having a child with a New Zealander rather than a fish king. Cut to present day, post-Justice League. A submarine is being raided by some pirates. Then enters Black Manta and his dad. And they are just being classic evil pirates. Then Papa Manta drags Little Manta aside and he's just like, hey, I'm your father, and you're my son. Also remember your grandfather? We're all good men. Here, have his knife. It's like quick fire exposition that rivals the terrible one from Justice League when they just blast through Aquaman's origins within like 30 seconds and then move on. Then Aquaman punches the submarine and somehow all the humans on board don't have their eyeballs explode out of their eye sockets from the pressure shift. And every time it cuts to Aquaman or he says something, there's like this sick guitar riff.
Permission to come aboard.
Him and pre-Black Manta have a little scuffle, and then Papa Manta whips out like a grenade launcher and shoots it at Aquaman. The blast doesn't hurt him, it just ticks him off a bit. Then through more sick action, Papa Manta has a sword or something pin him to the wall, and then an air tank lands on him. And at this point, everyone knows the classic line he gave in this moment. Black Manta is like, save him, Aquaman! And he's like, no, dickhead. And then Papa Manta says, he's like, you need to live so you can kill that son of a bitch. And then Black Manta is like, nah, Pops. And then he whips out a detonation device. He's like, son, you better get your ass out of here because I'm gonna blow this shit up. And it's like, what? Then finally Black Manta gets out of there and then the submarine blows up and then he has this instant look of revenge on his face. Like his dad was a dick until the end and it wasn't heartfelt at all. So rather than going, that was a stupid scene, it was fucking hilarious. There's no reason for him to want revenge because his dad was like threatening to blow him up as well when he could have just like nobly drowned to death because it was filling up with water or bled out through the spear that was punctured through his body. Anywho, Aquaman returns to meet his dad at the pub. The drinking montage, as mentioned before. The Little Mermaid rocks up and is like, Atlantis needs you. And he's like, nah, mate, I'm good. We are introduced to Patrick Wilson, who plays Aquaman's half-brother. He's the Loki monger of this movie. He's having a secret meeting with Dolph Lundgren, who is the king of other fish people. He wants to unite the ocean kingdoms to take over the surface world. Now, here comes another thing in this movie where James Wan subverts expectations. A movie like this, with all the lore about kings and prophecies and uniting armies and blah blah blah, they usually have boring exposition scenes to set all this crap up. This is just another thing James Wan is aware of. Whenever the dialogue gets boring, we need to unite the people, we will build an army and take over the world, blah blah blah. An explosion happens, cuts the boring scene in half, and then action starts. This is a term I will call exposition. Every time the boring scene is about to become boring, then bang! Oh no, there's villains! You can look at Thor, you can look at Black Panther, and there will be those scenes that drag on. Nah, this boring origin plot is going to keep you on your toes. So Night Owl launches an attack on the surface world, which creates a tsunami. Aquaman and Papa the Musk are caught up in this tidal wave. Mera rocks up, then he finally agrees to go to Atlantis. He fights Night Owl to take over the throne, and it's like trying to talk Aquaman into going to school on the day that he don't wanna. So they go to Atlantis, and they have their own immigration border. It's like Atlantis is just America, but underwater, and it looks like Avatar. Mera, Aquaman, and Willem Dafoe have a secret meeting in this like wrecked ship with a air bubble in it. And this movie has a wonderful detail in it that wasn't in Justice League. Whenever the Atlanteans go from being underwater into a room with air in it, they like vomit up the water that was in their lungs. That's a fantastic detail. So Aquaman meets Patrick Wilson, who goes on to become the Ocean Master. Another detail I love, dumb name left over from the comics. This movie ain't gonna hide that. No calling him, he's the master of the ocean, making it more wordy. Nah, Ocean Master. And he screams like Voldemort.
Rise, Atlantis!
Together!
They have the king fight to the death challenge just like in Black Panther in this sports stadium called the Ring of Fire. Aquaman gets his ass kicked, his trident from Justice League gets broken. Then there are water holograms like in the Abyss with score points that are in favor of the Ocean Master, and Aquaman has like shit statistics. And it's all silly. It's all just wonderful, silly, dumb fun.
Bro, you keep saying this movie is silly, and like had you actually watched the film, like it touches on a serious theme. Like Orm, which his name is, he is an ocean master at this point, wants to fight the surface world because of human pollution, which is such a serious issue that a smart movie like this raises. Like you want to see it as dumb because you're not intelligent. Like, bro, no disrespect, but you just aren't smart. Let's try to get through this. You're wasting my time, bro. Talking about this.
Yeah, it touches on pollution in one scene. Meanwhile, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we got this super cool, dark and gritty Aquaman littering in the ocean. Anyway, I'm brushing over the plot a lot because it's a Saturday morning cartoon kids show. Like, you know what's going to happen. It's the Power Rangers. Some little issue's going to be brought up, a monster is introduced, then the monster goes big, Megazord is formed, then Megazord calls the Power Sword, the end. So skipping ahead, Mera gets Aquaman out of Atlantis, and then they need to go to the desert for a whole sequence I'm going to call Romancing Indiana Jones's Stones. Mera and Aquaman needed some time to fall in love. So the whole movie just looks like Romancing the Stone, because that's a love movie. And also there's some archaeology and temples to solve, and all of a sudden mystery about the magic super trident of legend. Just obvious romantic imagery. Then, just as they are sussing out the location of where to go next, boom! Explosion! Go, go, Black Manta!
You should have helped save my pappy, Aquaman. Now I'm gonna kick your ass all over the 7 seas, bitch. Who the hell are you? Surprise, motherfucker!
Now, something I skipped over was something that nearly made me cry laughing. The explosion scene between Ocean Master and Dolph Lundgren. They get shot at by a submarine, which is piloted by Black Manta. It was a setup to trick King Drago. Then later on he's stranded on the destroyed submarine, and then some Power Ranger stormtroopers arrive with like a water hologram of the Ocean Master. They give him pirate's treasure for his payment, but they don't let him be a part of things. Then later, Ron, when shit isn't going Ocean Master's way, he finds Black Manta and gives him this like white Atlantean technology, and it's like, you want revenge? Take this stuff. And then, no joke, the montage of him building the Black Manta suit begins, and this wacky fun song starts, and he whips into frame, and it felt just as silly and stupid as the suit making montage from Deadpool.
This shit's gonna have nuts in it.
So Black Manta rocks up with some evil red Power Rangers, and it's so fucking awesome. They are so cheesy with their movements, and the action is like great. Ah, fuck it. Cue the music.
But maybe it's not Power Rangers. Like, maybe it's Aquaman. Like, did you see his movie? It don't got Zords or like the goofy costumes or none of the stupid Power Rangers. It's not even the same. You know what? I'm gonna keep my cool. But just, man, I'm making this reaction to piggyback on views, but oh my god, bro! Like, let's just end already.
So now the big battle this whole movie's been leading to. Aquaman, spoilers, is reunited with his mummy, goes to where the Super Q trident is, and then he meets the Kraken, which has the voice of the clitoris from the South Park movie. And it's like,
no one has ever beaten me. No one can get the trident.
And he's like, I don't even care about the trident. I just need to save the day. I'm doing it for love. So screw you. And she's like,
shit, you can hear me? Well, all good then.
And then he takes the trident. Then Ocean Master has united the armies of the seas, puts on his flexible metal fish mask, and he's like, I am Ocean Master! And it's like, yes, say the fucking name, please. And speaking of South Park, he literally wages war on the crab people.
Crab people, crab people, crab people.
Battle, battle, battle. Ocean Master has the crab people king on the ground, and he's like about to kill him, and then one of his second in command is like, no, we need him alive. And then Ocean Master is like, join me or die. And then they have this close up on this disgusting crab face, and out of his mouth comes this British voice.
I will never bow down to such filth like you. Us crab people are noble.
Ah, it's so great. And then Aquaman saves the day. So this film was directed by Australian treasure James Wan, the franchise master. This man just makes franchises, starting off with Saw. How long it took other people to run that franchise into the ground. It went so long that they had to take it into the third dimension. Then he makes Insidious, which spawns a franchise, until Lee Whannell took over and made a sequel with one of the funniest, dumbest endings I've ever seen. And now his Conjuring movies have spawned its own expanded universe of by-the-books trash prequels. Similar to how the 80s horror movies would just pump out just because sequels. He then finally hits the big times with the highest grossing Fast and the Furious sequel, and now there is no surprise he just made the highest grossing film in the DCEU. If he was not attached, I would never have seen Aquaman. Before taking the job, he was actually offered either Aquaman or The Flash, and he went, man, any other director would have taken The Flash. No one would have taken Aquaman. The only reason I went to see this movie with any bit of optimism was because there was a bunch of articles of him basically saying, look, I know Aquaman is silly, and you know what? I'm gonna make silly work. He didn't try to make Aquaman dark and brooding. He didn't try to hide anything that makes Aquaman cheesy by today's standards. He was like, yeah, comic book accurate suit, we're fucking doing it. Aquaman is going to suit up with the golden fish scale top, the green pants, and gloves.
Bruh, see, you just contradicted yourself. See, you said that Batman, the great Ben Affleck, Batman wasn't that special. Because he was just the only Batman with the only comic accurate costume. So, anyway.
See, Batman's costumes has been its own movie design for every film, but BVS was the first time it was a literal translation of a popular comic book version. That being said, to do the Aquaman comic book costume is literally camp. You can even see it in Snyder's design in Justice League. It's like badass armor, like some night-looking thing, and is dull and muted, and is just dark green with tiny little highlights of gold. Not with James Wan, orange top, green pants, green gloves. And you know what? When he walks out of the waterfall wearing that shit, it feels so earned. Even the Atlanteans in Justice League have like night-looking metal armor. In this, everyone looks like they're wearing white or red plastic stormtrooper outfits with propellers on their backs, with laser guns. Hashtag James Wan for Power Rangers 2. My biggest comparison to this movie, although not tonally and structurally, is Guardians of the Galaxy. But it's like you take some wacky, campy source material, and you either have two options: make it dark and realistic, or make what makes the source material work. Like a movie with a talking raccoon, talking tree, a green lady, a wrestler who doesn't get jokes, wacky villains. Like, you're gonna try to make that like The Dark Knight, or you're gonna commit to the fun and silliness with no shame. And just like Guardians of the Galaxy, going the silly route was a risk that worked. James Wan already has plans for Aquaman 2. Fucking full steam ahead. Probably just going to be as great as this one. And then he'll probably give Aquaman 3 to Leigh Whannell, who will do what Leigh Whannell will do. So it was recently revealed that this movie wasn't being nominated for visual effects at the Oscars. Now, as a visual effects artist, I just want to say this movie was visually breathtaking. It's colourful and massive. And although it has every right to be nominated, there's sort of a difference between realistic CGI and fun CGI. Like, this movie tried its hardest to make great white sharks wearing horsey saddles as realistic as possible. But for the most part, it's Pandora underwater. But Pandora wasn't the believable part of Avatar. It was the realistic motion capture of the characters. Putting them in that world is just what added to the experience. Where Aquaman, I would put it in the category of like the first Pacific Rim. The CGI isn't that realistic, but it's really fun.
Zack Snyder. Facts.
A happy 650 out of 650 I spent, but I only enjoyed it on the level of how much of a Power Rangers fan I am. And that's the joy I got out of it. If you want a dark and gritty Aquaman, it's not that. If you want a Marvel-esque comic book movie, where it has jokes but the plot is simple, it ain't that either. It's sort of its own thing in a way. But I recommend it regardless. Not that I need to, look at the fucking money it's made. Say, just thinking about the real reason why Zack Snyder cast Jason Momoa. I wonder.
Everyone says that about Batman Begins. Batman's dark. And I'm like, okay, no, Batman's cool. He gets to go to a Tibetan monastery to be trained by ninjas. Okay, I want to do that. But he doesn't, like, get raped in prison. That could happen in my movie. If you want to talk about dark, that's how that would go.
There's so many things you can do, like rip someone's tongue out of their throat and get away with it, and rape beautiful women, you know?
I really get around, I'm the slut of the sea. When I say I've got
No, I can't pause it. I can't pause the video. What's going on? I can't pause the video. No, bruh, nah. No! Man, come on now. No.